Could you tell me what a bare land condo model is and why you chose that?
Okay, I spent a lot of time in other maritime provinces and a lot of time in Newfoundland. And while I was in Newfoundland, I got to meet some people that were developing golf courses with homes on golf courses. And I asked them, how do you do this? Well, they said, we do it by condominium. I said, condominium? That's high rise. No. We do it as a bare land condominium. Okay.
Because that's what people think when they hear condominium.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
The immediate thought is, oh, it's a high rise in the country. Well, it's nothing like that. So anyway, I did research, and I think it was 2003, I started exploring the idea of creating a bare land condominium because it had never been done in Nova Scotia before. So I started with a project which later became called Canyon Point Resort. We had roughly 60 acres of land there on a lake. And under the rules that came into effect in the 90s, we were only permitted to create 2 lots on that 60 acres. So it was just unfeasible to develop it to get 2 lots. That would have meant each lot would have cost hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, which nobody could have afforded to buy. So as we looked further into this bare land condominium concept, it answered a whole bunch of the questions. Because now all of a sudden, well, anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. But we worked on creating this bare land condominium idea for about 3 years. Most of the lawyers in Nova Scotia that we talked to had never heard of such a thing before, and they weren't much help at giving us guidance to put it together. But eventually we got connected with the registrar, what are they called? The Nova Scotia Registrar of Condominiums. And they were extremely helpful. And they gave us names of different law firms that had experience in doing high-rise condominium law. And in 2006, we were able to create the very first bare land condominium in Nova Scotia. And with that property that we could only get 2 lots on, we got 59.
Oh, wow.
So you can see the economic difference. But not only that, we also put in central services. We put in what are known as cluster septic systems. We did a central water system. And again, once the developer leaves without having that bare land condominium in place, who was going to maintain all that stuff? So that became the vehicle to make sure that, well, another thing we did there was build trails and build lake access points with docks and benches and lawn chairs or beach chairs, whatever you want to call them.
So it keeps that infrastructure in place that allows the quality of life.
Exactly. So when the developer was no longer there, there was a board of directors elected from the owners, and they manage the community. And every year they have another annual meeting where they set their budgets, and they have an election for who's going to be president, vice president, secretary, that kind of thing. And they manage their own community. So all those things that need to be maintained, like sewers and water and roads and trails and lake access points and docks, that stuff can all be maintained. And there's a structure to make sure everything is looked after. So it was the answer to all the questions that we've been searching for answers for 35 years.
And it involves the residents and creates community as a result.
Absolutely.
Is that fair?
They basically, the communities are private, but they're able to manage their own communities. As an example, if you live in any of our bare land communities, one of the things that the community looks after is I don't know how many people know this, but if you're on a septic system, there's filters in that septic system that have to be taken out twice a year and cleaned and put back in. So what our communities do, they look after cleaning those filters, but one of those visits each year, they also test the septic tank to find out how much sludge, how much scum, and how much gray water there is in the tank. And when the gray water gets to be less than it should be, that is their immediate notice that the tank needs to be pumped. So it gets pumped. So in other words, my point is, because it's a Bearland condominium community, you can offer the residents those services which aren't available through municipal laws or municipal services, because you're in a rural area. So they're able to get services that aren't available anywhere else. You know, there's a myth. One of the myths is if you live in a Bearland condominium, you don't own the land. That's not so. When you buy in a Bearland community, each unit or lot, we call them units, each unit has a surveyed area on the ground, same as a survey of any lot anywhere. That unit or lot gets a PID number, same as every other property in Nova Scotia, and the tax bill is sent directly to the owner of that unit with their own PID. The only real difference here is that there's a body in place to make sure that all the residents, if they have a problem, there's a body to deal with it. They don't have to chase a county department or a provincial or some other body somewhere else that may not give you the same level of service that you're going to get from your own people in your own community.
But, you know, they're still contributing to the tax base.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a myth I was going to ask you about, because I could see how people could maybe come to that conclusion when you're talking about it, but it's kind of like the best of both worlds.
People pay taxes just the same as they would in any other area of the province. There's no difference there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But they also get the added bonus of being able to live in a private community and to have the services that they want and wish to have by living in a private community. And that's what you call condominium fees. So the community sets a fee for the level of services that are being provided. And in addition to that, every year they take a small amount or a percentage of that money and they put it in a reserve fund, so that if anything ever goes wrong and there's an expense that people are not prepared for, the money is there to deal with it. No shocks.
Right, so they have some control over their destiny,
Absolutely.
so to speak, while they're contributing to the tax base at the same time.
Absolutely.
So it kind of sounds like the best of both worlds.
It is, and it solved that huge problem. I mean, all you really have to do is, if you want to check it out, go to Loon Point, Meek Arm Cove, Falls Lake Resort, Canyon Point Resort, and look at the quality of those communities. Then go to another lake community that none of us had any involvement with and check out the quality of the roads. That's usually where it shows up first, potholes. And anyway, I'm not going to go into detail, but if you ever go looking at properties in rural areas on private roads, you'll very soon see the difference between what we are doing, because it can be well managed, versus what is not managed in other areas.